Okay, I'm going to try and do this Katie's Arms from here, um, which is outside at a hotel near Orlando. And in the background, it does sound actually like I'm at a wedding, and I am also dressed like I'm at a slightly weird wedding, but I'm not. I'm just literally off stage from doing a talk here, or a speech, if you will. So if you can't hear me for shit, there we are. We can't hear me. That may be no bad thing for you guys, but if you can hear me, great. If you wonder why I'm dressed slightly like I don't know, I feel a bit like a flamenco dancer that's got vomited on by a banana. What happened was my girlfriend was like, well, it's Florida. You've got to dress like Florida. So this was the interpretation of Florida. I'm not sure that it's very convincing. Anyway, thank you to everybody that's joining us. Thank you everyone who joined like last week as well. Numbers that we're getting are kind of a little bit crazy. Presumably everybody's had enough still of the UK, and also your shitty weather. I've heard from my mother that the weather is truly shitty in the UK. So I'm sorry that we may fail at this with this connection, I fear, today. Katie's Arms may get taken down by the Wi-Fi. I'm very sad for that. But I'll persevere, talking possibly to myself, who knows, and we'll see. There's a few things I wanted to talk to you about this week. Number one, of course, is that whilst you've got the shitty weather in the UK, it makes things even worse, and I know that. My mother's like sick to death of the whole thing. She's sick to death of the UK because of all your bloody rain. So I'm sorry that you have that, and I feel slightly guilty about the fact that it's bloody baking here and lovely weather. So I apologise that you have shit weather. My mother, I think, actually now officially wants to stab my father, which is unfortunate after however many years of marriage that they've had. There was a story, wasn't there, of someone who actually stabbed their husband after lockdown over an iPhone cable. I fear that my mother's being pushed to that same extent. And I think, I don't know, and I'm definitely not going to confirm when I'm going to leave the US, but I am going to be coming home to the UK in the next wee while. People always ask me, when are you going? I think by that they mean, when are you buggering off, you annoying wench? But I am going to come home sometime soon, partly because it's time for, I guess, me to show face as a mother. My children are absolutely fine without me. They don't need me at all. And I truly believe actually that everybody needs a break from me very often. And probably the reason my marriage survives is because I am away a lot, but I've now been 95 days or so out of a suitcase. And I know, oh, poor you, blah, 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 because you guys are locked down to shit. So I know that I'm the lucky one, but it's probably time. There's always comes a time when my heart goes, it's time to come home. And home for me will always be the UK, because that's where I always wanted to fight. And it feels like I should be back there now too. So at some point I'm going to make a break for the UK, and we'll see how that goes for me. Given I'm not allowed to have left, I'm not sure how coming back will work. Last time I came home, I got filmed on the plane because I refused to wear a mask. This was quite a long time ago, maybe 6 months ago, and some pervert filmed me, like sat opposite me, filming me on the plane while I was sleeping, and then filmed me also as I walked through the airport with I remember I had a t-shirt on with a weapon on, and I do that on purpose just to sort of piss people off. And he filmed me at the airport as well because he was so angry that I didn't have a mask on the whole time. And then he sold those pictures to the Mirror. So that was the last time I came home. And this time I'll be coming home to lovely Mark and my children and get to see them again after 3.5 months. I suspect now my son is going to be taller than me, which would be bloody awful. I just never wanted to get to the point where my children would be taller than I am. And I think now all 3 of them are going to be. And my son's only, what is he? He's only 12. So if he's already 5'8", and God knows what, I guess the other people are used to this, right? When your children get taller than you and they make you feel really, really little, that's what's happening to me. Looking at the news and the craziness of pro-Palestine all over London, obviously no one's allowed to say this stuff. I'm massively pro-Israeli because Israel is fantastic. They still have national service, which I think is an amazing thing. They don't reward people for killing each other, as the Palestinians do. Palestinian terrorists, Hamas, they receive a reward for every Jewish person they kill, and very often they receive an amount of money, or their family are also rewarded. So if a Palestinian terrorist kills a Israeli or a Jewish person, then they receive a reward for that. And no one really talks about that. It's probably not being put on BBC News, I don't imagine, that Hamas terrorists are rewarded for killing each other. But, no one wants to talk of that. And no one wants to talk of the fact that right now in the UK, Jewish families are afraid to go out, and that Jewish children are being kept in their homes because if they're allowed out and the Palestinian mob got them, that they would be killed. So, and same in Paris as well, where there is a Muslim majority. Jewish people are terrified for their own lives right now. No one's discussing that either. The only accepted opinion right now is pro-Palestine, and that's because the power sits with the Muslim majority. So if you're wondering what's going on, why all the pro-Palestinian coverage, why Twitter has London for Palestine and all the rest of it, it's because you're not allowed to be pro-Israeli, you're not allowed to be pro-Israel. As a sort of basic factual level reminder, Israel has one nation, the nation state of Israel, and Palestine, belonging to an Arab territory, they have 22 nations. So there are 22 Arab states, there is one Israeli state. So there's only one place that Jewish people have left to go to. Palestinians can choose any number of states to be in. But that's just a bit of fact, and I know fact is now hate speech, and so therefore that is a policeable event right there. And certainly at LBC, when I used to have my own radio show there, I was brought in for cautioning because I'd delivered some pro-Israeli statements on air about the fact that I love Israel, because if you throw a bomb at an Israeli house, then they nuke the homes of the terrorist and the homes of the terrorist family, and they take no shit. Their wall between Palestine and Israel is mighty high and fine, and if you drop from it, the idea is that you shatter both legs. Israelis don't piss about. And I remember having that rant on air and then being called in for saying too many pro-Israeli views on air. You're not allowed to be pro-Israeli in the British media. I should also explain a few things as well. You've been hearing about Sheila Fogarty and Nick Ferrari, two of the fattest radio presenters that there are in the UK. They're from LBC, where I used to work. And Sheila Fogarty is such a fatty that she wouldn't even come into studio. So usually you do a studio handover where one radio host cuts to break, and during that break you swap studio positions, you go in, take over. So Fatty Fogarty wouldn't even stay in studio to do a handover with me. She would work from effectively a broom cupboard for the day, rather than come into studio and swap studios with me, because she knew my views about fatty bum bums, which actually I would have been totally fine swapping studios with a fatty bum bum, because I don't take it out on people face to face, or if they choose to be a fatty bum bum, that's fine. But Fatty Fogarty wouldn't even swap places with me in studio, and Nick Ferrari is one hamburger away from a heart attack. But I see that they're sat there in central London telling you about the vaccine, and why you must have the vaccine, and why it's only fair if you have the vaccine. I think Fatty Ferrari came out and said British people don't have the right to rely on their own immune system. And can you imagine coming out and saying that people don't have the right to rely on your own immune system, like somehow that was a government awarded freedom that should also be taken away, the right to rely on your own immune system? Are these fatty bum bums off their rocket? Seriously? And how has it come to pass that people like that can still have their radio show when they're preaching what I think is abhorrent positions? And since when did my medical choice be a matter for concern of some fatty bum bum radio? Frankly, if you're over a healthy sized BMI, and unless you're a sumo wrestler or a member of the military and you just happen to be so muscular you can barely put on a pair of trousers, or unless you're a rugby player, unless you are seriously loaded for your sport or your profession, and by loaded I mean muscularly loaded or weight loaded, then you don't really deserve to have an opinion on anything to do with medicine, do you? Or anyone's medical history. Have you seen the Belgium health minister? Have a look. The Belgium health minister was, or is, the fattest. She doesn't have a neck. There is just a continuation of her head. into her enormous body. So no fatty bum bum should be giving us advice. And certainly I read the other day, I mean, they circle this news item around every now and then, don't they, that fatty bum bums will be made to pay to take their fatty bum bumness on a plane. And that's something I've always agreed with. Because, you know, Ryanair and others, I don't know what's cheap, Spirit here in America, Frontier, they make us pay for our luggage, don't they? So you're allowed, like, you have to pay extra to take your 20 kilo bag on board. But if I add 20 kilos to myself, I'm still lighter than the average American woman or the average British woman. So fatty bum bums should be made to pay for their kilos. I think when you check in, you need to stand on a scale with your luggage and everything, or maybe even your children. Yeah, if you're going to have a child on your lap, you should hold the child as well. So whatever your cumulative weight is that you intend to take onto the plane, that's what you pay for. And therefore, if I'm so skinny mini, and then I don't take too much luggage either, I go on for much cheaper than the fatty bum bum. And that seems to me an entirely reasonable, that's the only economic model that makes any sense, actually. Anyway, Prince Harry. I'm not entirely sure what's going on with the ginger one right now, other than he's being an epic level of gingerness. I think we discussed this last week, didn't we? That on a scale of 1 to twat, he's officially tipped over the twat balance. But if he's having a complete breakdown, I guess that's partly what's going on. I suppose it also relates to the fact that maybe he was always the underdog because he was never going to be the one that inherited the throne. And so somehow by getting together with Trailer Trash Markle, it's just upped his sort of twatness status. I'm kind of upset about it. You know, Prince Harry, as we all recall, was the very best of us. You could rely on Prince Harry to either be smashed off his face on drugs or, you know, have some blonde balanced on his balls whilst he was naked in Vegas. I mean, he was splendid. Everyone was able to overlook being ginger. Someone puts on here that they love gingers. I don't know how that's possible. I've also strongly correlated in the past ginger people with small penises. That might be a bold assertion for the Katie's Arms. I do have fact base for that. I have a factual base for that. But I mean, you can argue back with me, but I'm not sure. I'll probably best park that one because I don't want to be unkind about past partners. But anyway, Harry's been a complete noob and needs to shut up. I don't really mind what he wants to do otherwise, but definitely don't slag off the American First Amendment. Maybe it's fine if you're a prince, but I guess if you're someone like me who gets arrested or has been threatened with arrest if I don't go in for cautioning at a police station just for speaking the truth, you know, you can find Katie Hopkins references Pakistani Muslim men as being involved in grooming gangs. That ended up with me, you know, being threatened with arrest. When truth is an arrestable offence, then fact is hate speech, and that's when someone like me ends up with being arrested. So I don't think Harry's really got the right, has he now, to be talking about trying to stop the First Amendment. Anywho, I will try and do questions, although whether we have the right to have questions on here or not with my Wi-Fi connection such that it is. So I'm currently in Ocala, and Ocala is known as horse country, and I am often mistaken for being involved with horses because I look a bit like a horse. And so people say to me, like, do I ride? And they haven't done the thinking process of thinking, oh, she looks a bit like a horse, so therefore, they've done that process, but they forget that that's what their thought process was. So they say to me, do you ride? But actually what they mean is you look a bit like a horse, and so I think you're a rider. And true enough, I got in the shuttle to get me from the airport to the hotel I'm staying in here, and the guy running the shuttle said, Miss Katie, are you here to ride? And I'm like, no, I just look a bit like a horse. And I swear to God, it happens to me all the time. In the UK as well, there's a thing about, because people think I'm posh, and I'm also not posh, they also think I'm involved with horses. But here, I think it is just that I look a bit like a horse. And so in Ocala, they're asking which stables I'm here riding for. And they shortcut the whole bit where they ask if I actually ride. They're just assuming that. I'm not a porn star either. I don't do porn. so I don't know what the porn things are. But I don't ride horses that much or that well. I rode in Barbados once and nearly came to a very sticky end. And I'm definitely not here on a riding holiday. But anyway, I'm definitely not posh either. My father actually comes from a very regular council house somewhere called East the Water. And there was a deal that you weren't supposed to come from East the Water. You were only allowed to come from West the Water. So that's, I don't actually come from posh either, although people do assume that I'm posh. And I don't know why that is. I'm not posh. Maybe it's my nose. Right, enough talking about me. So yes, I will try and answer any questions. And I had a guy come to an event the other night actually on this porn subject, and he came in and he boldly said in front of the room, "Oh, thanks very much for last night, Katie, it was really great." And you could see the heads turn, and I was like, you mean last night at the event I spoke at? And he was like, "Oh yeah, last night at the event you spoke at." Yeah, just be clear. Don't come in a room and say, "Thanks for last night, Katie, it was great," in front of a lot of women. Have I ever slipped Bojo a blowy? No, although I have great gossip on this to share with you. I did genuinely meet Boris, and I did genuinely ask Boris to marry me. And at the time when Boris was fighting hard for our side, Boris was hot. So he definitely was on the list of men that, those things are possible with. So I got the attraction to Boris, but subsequently, of course, he's turned into a complete wanker, shut down the country, believed in the science, got paid off by, either he got paid off by, I don't know, the World Economic Forum, he was threatened with something, or there is another theory out there which is complicated to explain, other than he was specifically told if he didn't collapse the UK, that he would be the one in the shit. And so that's why he's done this. But the gossip on Boris is, yes, of course, I rescinded the wedding invitation or my offer of marriage. But in a day or so, I'm hoping to meet with Jenny. And Jenny, or Jennifer, as you might know, is the woman who was having the affair with Boris. You know, the buxom blonde lady with the hot white hair. So I'm very much hoping to meet with her. I think we might be meeting here in Florida. So if I'm suicided in the next day, you'll know why. But hopefully Jennifer and I can get together, because I think we've got some good stories to share between us, and then I can share them with you here at Katie's Arms. But that's how, so the blonde lady that Boris had the affair with, there was also sort of suggestions of transfer of money. I'm going to meet with her so that she's able to sort of tell her truths, because of course the British media don't allow women to tell their truths. They just side with the politician and they side with the power. So nobody's really heard Jennifer's story or her truth or anything. She just gets disparaged because she's female, and it's very easy to put down these women. Boris seems to get away with everything no matter what, right? So I think it will be helpful for me to meet with her and for her to get her side put across with a female that understands that it probably isn't all that Boris is whiter than white and that she's the bad guy. So I'll be meeting with her hopefully, and I will be able to update you here at Katie's Arms about her side on the affair with Boris Johnson and what actually went on, and maybe a little bit more about what Boris is actually like as a person, because I don't know if any of us really know that anymore. We do know that his wallpaper is definitely falling off. Jennifer Akuri, yeah, I think it is something like that. Someone here asking, do you remember what your children look like? I get that a lot from people. You usually get it from women, so I'm assuming that's from a female. And women do it for two reasons. Number one, to try and put another female down. So women don't like to see, particularly weak women don't like to see strong women. Weak women that have always stayed at home or mostly defined themselves as a mother don't like to see strong women achieving other things, and they particularly don't like to see women dress in something other than, what was that awful bloody brand? Kidston. Cath Kidston. The brand for women who've gone to die. What's that other bloody awful brand? And it sort of does a lot of stripes. It's in the high street. Jules and Kidston, Cath Kidston, brands for women who are already dead on the inside and haven't had sex for the last 10 years. So it's those sorts of women who would ask me, do you remember what your bloody kids look like? Whilst they stood there dressed head to toe in some bloody awful Jules thing with one of those bags, white clean bags, those plastic bag things. They're bags like with a vinyl coating. I mean, who has those other than women who just want to hang around with children and either they have their tits are leaking or their children are leaking, and that's why they have to have bags wrapped in vinyl. Anyway, they asked me, do I not miss my children? But what they're really saying is, A, I'm a better mother than you are, and B, they want me to feel some sort of guilt or to sort of cry. And as this lady here, Rebecca, says, thank you, Rebecca, darling, they can fuck off in their Jules gilet. That's exactly how I feel. And in fact, that's a great retort, isn't it? People ask about my children, I should say, why don't you fuck off in your Jules gilet? Even if they're from America and never heard of Jules in their life. Because the notion that my children are anything but happy or anything, I mean, Jesus, my children aren't perfect, right? We've discussed this before. My target as a parent was that they would survive my parenting. But, my children are pretty bloody marvellous, actually. One of my daughters works on a farm. She's 14 years old, and she gets up at 4 a.m. today to do the milking of the entire cow herd. Like, she's that girl. She's on her hands and knees milking the herd at 4 a.m. and she goes to a posh school in the daytime. I mean, whatever. I think posh kids are largely idiots because they don't have part-time jobs. Their parents sling them 20 quid whenever they want to go anywhere, and they think that going skiing is a normal holiday. Darlings, that's not normal. That's what posh people do who are privileged. My other daughter has 2 jobs, one in an amusement park and one in a garden centre, and she's epic. She probably worked more hours in the last week than most people in the UK. And my other little son, I hope to have him in employment by the time he's 14. So how are my children? Yeah, pretty bloody good, actually, because they understand hard work. They don't get given any money for free, and they weren't allowed phones until they were 14, and my 12-year-old still doesn't have one. So yeah, good, thanks. And yeah, fuck off in your Jules gilet. And then people also ask me, what do they ask me? Don't you miss home? And I think they hope that it will sort of touch on some huge, nerve, and I'll sort of break down and go, oh, of course I miss my home. And the answer is, yes, of course I miss my home. And I also miss my country. And I also miss being with my country, and I feel disloyal when I'm away from it. But you know what? The fight for my country is also here in America, because if we lose America, we also lose what we have in England. So I just got to keep fighting. And some people can say, oh, what, lauding it around doing speeches, is that really fighting? And I think actually it is. And if I could do this fight in the UK and bring my side and our side together and be on platforms in the UK, I would be every damn day. But those have been taken, and I'm not allowed to do it in the UK. So that's why I'm here. And I love it, and I'm so grateful for everybody that supports me. And I do so miss my family, and I do so miss my children. I speak to all of them every day or every other day. And I miss my husband, who is really the hero of this piece, because he A, puts up with me, B, puts up with my shit, and C, puts up with my shit, and is also a great father to my children. And he works as well in a local supermarket. So in terms of us not being normal, or my children being arseholes because they're linked to me, no, they're the best of us, and I have been that mother. So that's probably my answer to that. And from here, I'm going to go to Colorado. That's probably going to feel like that's about the last leg of this. I will be sad to know that I'm on the homeward leg, because I will miss doing this and being part of this. I'll be glad to be back, because I'll be back with you guys, and I feel more loyal when I'm in the UK, because I feel like I'm sharing in the pain, and I also can help kind of challenge the nonsense that you guys have been going through. I just heard that Germany doesn't want British people there. Well, you know what? Screw you, Germany. We don't particularly want to go to Germany either. Once you get personality, maybe we'll think about coming back and blessing you with ours. It's the thing, one British person goes to Germany, and the sense of humour, the amount of sense of humour in Germany goes up by 400%, because they don't really go for a sense of humour, do they, darlings? Is there any hope for the UK? Do you know, I'm always going to say yes, and I'm always going to say yes, because I'm always going to be there fighting for it, and I know that we're many. And so I guess that's where, and that's probably my talk here today as well, is, I tell people here to remember that there's 20 million British people who are standing right alongside you, and you can't hear us. and you're not allowed to see us. But there's 20 million brilliant British people who are applauding you, great Americans, every step of the way. And it's got nothing to do with politics at all, at all. All it is about wanting the best for each other and not giving a shit how you want to live your life. Take your drugs, smoke your dope, drink your drink. Do what you want, have your vaccine, don't. Wear your mask, don't. Walk naked down the street, don't. Marry your sister or your brother, don't. Not really bothered as long as I don't have to pay for your kids if they're mutants. So maybe don't marry your brother or your sister because that's NHS. But you get my point. You live your life, be as happy as you can damn well be. That's the side I'm on. That's it. That's it. It's not Conservative, it's not Labour, it's nothing. It's just the side that wants the very best for you. And we're many, and the more that we realise we're all here together, the more our voices will be heard. Oh my life, trouble's coming. And give me 1 minute before you burst on in here with your 85 drinks. Let me have your hat a minute, Annie. Well, I'll just finish off this call and then I'll be right there with you. Oh, no, that's right. Okay. So before we let Annie, yeah, I'm there for a drink, and two, I'm going to leave you all now and go and have drinks with my darling friend Annie, and then we're going for dinner as well, aren't we?
Yes.
We've not. Did you eat? No. We've not eaten. No, we've not eaten. So I'm going to go and love you and leave you guys. I'm sorry not to answer more of your questions, but I think we did quite well. Katie, Eurovision is on. My loves, if Eurovision is on, I don't know why you're here. Maybe you've just got me on in the background. That's very wise. I'm glad that I'd like to go to Eurovision actually. And did you get your chair sorted, Danny? I'll leave you all to Eurovision. I'm going to go and drink with my good patriot friend here, Annie, and I will see you all next week for the Katie's Arms. And until then, I wish you all the very best. And remember, we are many, and we are much stronger together.